The whiskey was too good for the news it was carrying. I sat in my study, the one room in this sprawling Denver house that still felt like mine, and watched the ice cubes melt in a glass of something aged 18 years. I'd been saving it. For what? I didn't know anymore. A celebration, maybe, a promotion, a 10th anniversary. The anniversary had come and gone 3 weeks ago. We'd celebrated. At least, we'd performed the celebration. A dinner at that French place she loved, where the forks felt like surgical instruments and the conversation had the same sterile, precise emptiness. I'd given her the emerald earrings. She'd worn them. She'd thanked me. Her smile never reached her eyes, but I was used to that. I told myself it was stress, the new charity board position, the pressure of maintaining all of this. My gift, the one I'd been genuinely excited about, was still to come. I'd hired a photographer, not for a stiff, formal session in a studio with fake clouds. I'd hired Leo Martin. His work was raw, emotional. He captured stories in the space between people. I found him through a friend, seen his portfolio of couples, families. The images weren't just pictures, they were truths. Light and shadow telling the secret history of a relationship. I wanted that for us. A documented truth of our decade. A testament. Maybe in some quiet, desperate part of me. I wanted the camera to see something I was starting to fear I could no longer see. The love I prayed was still there, buried under the busyness and the quiet dinners. I told Sophia it was a surprise. A weekend up at the cabin in Estes Park. Just us, the mountains, and Leo with his camera. She'd been agreeable. Not excited. Agreeable. Like humoring a child with a whimsical idea. That sounds lovely, Elias. Her voice had the same tone she used when the barista asked if she wanted room for cream. The weekend was crisp, Colorado autumn perfection. The aspen trees were a blinding gold against the endless blue sky. The cabin, a place filled with memories of earlier, easier years, smelled of pine and wood smoke. Leo was a quiet presence, a man in his 50s with kind eyes and a way of disappearing even while he was watching everything. And he watched. He photographed us making coffee in the little kitchen, me at the stove, her looking out the window. He caught us on the porch swing, a blanket over our legs. Walking by the river, the water rushing over stones. He didn't pose us much. He asked questions. Tell me about your first date. What's the dumbest argument you ever had? What does this place mean to you? I talked. I reminisced. I looked at Sophia, trying to conjure the feeling from the stories. She smiled. She answered. She leaned her head on my shoulder when prompted. But there was a disconnect. A slight stiffness in her posture when my arm went around her waist. A flicker in her eyes when Leo's shutter clicked that wasn't joy, but something more like assessment. She was performing. I saw it. Even then, but I blamed the camera. I told myself she was shy, that having a stranger document our intimacy was awkward. Leo was discreet. He used a long lens. He'd wander off, then capture us when we thought we were alone. Those were the shots I was most eager to see. The unguarded moments. The real us. The shoot ended Sunday afternoon. Leo packed his gear. The images will be incredible, he said, shaking my hand. His gaze held mine a beat too long. There was something in it. Not pity exactly. A profound, professional recognition. He'd seen something. I'll have a gallery for you in 2 weeks. Sophia kissed my cheek. Thank you, darling. It was a unique gift. She went inside to pack her things. I stood on the porch with Leo. The silence stretched. She's a beautiful woman, he said finally, not looking at me. She is. You have a beautiful life here. It wasn't a question. I just nodded. He opened his car door, then paused. The camera, it's a blunt instrument, Elias. It doesn't interpret. It just collects evidence. Sometimes, the evidence is more than people are ready for. I laughed, a hollow sound. I'm a writer, Leo. I deal in subtext for a living. I think I can handle it. He gave me that look again. The one that saw too much. All right. I'll be in touch. 2 weeks later, the email arrived. Asterisk. Your gallery is ready. Password enclosed. Take your time. Asterisk. It was a Tuesday. Sophia was at a board meeting that would run into a dinner. I had the house to myself. I poured the whiskey I'd been saving, a foolish, superstitious toast to the past, and opened my laptop. I entered the password. Sophia and Elias 10. The first image filled the screen. It was stunning. The technical mastery was undeniable. The light through the cabin window, cutting across the kitchen table, illuminating the steam from our coffee mugs. It was painterly, and there we were. Me, looking at her with an expression that, even to my own eyes, looked like a quiet, hopeful longing. Her, looking out the window, profile sharp, beautiful, and utterly remote. The distance between us and the frame was just a few feet, but in the language of the photograph, it was a canyon. The title Leo had given it, Morning Light. I clicked next. The porch swing. We were closer, physically, my arm around her, her head on my shoulder, but my body was angled toward her, curved in an embrace. Hers was straight, upright, leaning against me not in relaxation, but as an object leans against a wall for support. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap, fingers tight. Mine were gripping her arm, possessive, clinging. Quiet moment. A chill started in my stomach, spreading outwards. I took a large swallow of whiskey. It tasted like ash. I clicked through a series. Each one was a masterpiece of composition and a forensic dissection of a dying marriage. There was one of us laughing. I was mid-laugh, head thrown back, eyes crinkled. She was smiling, but her eyes were on Leo, checking his reaction, making sure the performance was landing. Shared joy. The river walk. We were holding hands. My hand enveloped hers, but her fingers were limp within my grasp, not interlocking. Her stride was slightly ahead of mine, pulling, just a little, as if trying to subtly increase the pace to end the walk. Along the banks. Then I got to the candid shots. The ones he'd taken when we thought he wasn't there. Me, stacking firewood, looking toward the cabin window where she stood, my expression naked and full of a love so deep it was painful. She, in the window, phone to her ear, laughing, a real, vibrant, alive laugh I hadn't heard in months. She wasn't laughing with me. She wasn't laughing at anything in our world. Unobserved eye. Another. I was inside, building a fire in the hearth, my back to the French doors. Outside, on the small patio, she was on that phone again. Her posture was different. Leaning against the railing, one foot tucked behind the other, a youthful, flirtatious stance I remembered from years ago. She was twirling a strand of hair. Even through the glass, the digital grain, the intimacy of the gesture was a physical blow. Unobserved too. The final candid was the one that stopped my heart. It was a wide shot of the living area. I was in the foreground, slightly out of focus, reading a book in an armchair. She was in the background, by the bookshelf, perfectly sharp. She held her phone not to her ear, but in front of her, angled down. She was taking a picture. A selfie. But not just a selfie. She was angling the phone to capture the room, the cozy fire, the mountain view out the window behind her. She was curating a moment, packaging it, and on her face was a smile, but it wasn't for me or for the beauty around her. It was a performative, recipient-aware smile, a smile for someone specific on the other end of that phone. The caption Leo had given it was the cruelest cut of all. Transmission. I sat back. The room was silent except for the low hum of my computer and the pounding of my own blood in my ears. I hadn't seen an affair. Not explicitly. I hadn't seen a kiss, a clandestine meeting. What I had seen, documented with the ruthless clarity of a master artist, was the emotional reality. Her absence. Her investment elsewhere. The meticulous construction of a parallel life, using the set dressing of our life. The camera didn't show me another man. It showed me her vacancy. It showed me that the woman in these photographs, my wife of 10 years, was already gone. She was just waiting for the right moment to make it official. The gallery was a narrative, a story told in 50 images. The story wasn't a decade of love. It was the unraveling. It was the performance. It was the man who didn't want to see and the camera that made him. I closed the laptop. I finished the whiskey. The celebration was over. The next few days, I moved through my life like a ghost. I watched her now with the knowledge the photographs had seared into me. I saw the secret glances at her phone when she thought I was distracted. The way her energy would shift after a particular text, a little brighter, a little more distant from me. The careful construction of her social media posts, the happy wife, the beautiful home, the enviable life, all curated for an audience of one that wasn't me. I became an investigator in my own home. I didn't rifle through her things. The photographs had given me a higher grade of evidence. I observed. The writer in me, the student of human motivation, finally turned his focus on his own protagonist. I remembered the business trip to Phoenix 2 months ago. The one where the time zone excuse for her quiet nights didn't quite add up. I remembered the new gym friend, Mark, she mentioned occasionally, always with a vague dismissiveness that now felt calculated. Oh, just someone from spin class. He's harmless. I remembered the password change on her iPad. The new, lingering scent of a cologne on her coat that wasn't mine. The photographs had provided the thesis. Now, the daily details were the supporting arguments. Confrontation was the obvious next step. The screaming match, the tears, the demands for truth. But a cold, analytical calm had settled over me. The shock had burned away, leaving a clear, icy resolution. She had checked out of our marriage. She was using our life as a backdrop for her new narrative. If I confronted her now, with just the photographs as my witness, she would gaslight. She would cry. She would say I was paranoid, that Leo's photos were artistic, that I was misinterpreting her need for space or connection. She would turn around, and part of me, the part that had loved her for so long, might still be weak enough to believe her. No, I needed irrefutable, concrete proof. The kind even her lawyer couldn't explain away. The photographs were the map. Now I had to find the territory. I hired someone, a discreet, expensive professional named Ada. I gave her the photographs, printed out. I pointed to the candid of Sophia on the phone. Find out who she's talking to, who she's taking that picture for. Ada nodded, no judgment in her eyes. The phone is the key. If I can get a temporary implant on it, even for 24 hours, we'll have everything. That was the tricky part. Getting Sophia's phone unattended and unlocked for the few minutes it would take. I planned it for Wednesday. She had her long, intense yoga class followed by a juice bar trip with a friend. She was always frazzled afterward, dumping her bag in the hall, heading straight for the shower. The day arrived. My heart was a cold stone. I felt like a stranger in my own skin. When she left, all fluttery energy in her leggings and tank top, I went to work. Her bag was on the bench in the foyer. The phone was inside, alongside her wallet, keys, a tube of lip balm. It was locked. A 6-digit code. I had one chance. I thought of the things she used. Birthdays. Anniversaries. Our wedding date. I tried them. Nothing. I stared at the screen. The photograph of the two of us from a happier time, years ago, in Mexico. Her smile was real in that one. I felt a stab of agony, so sharp, I almost put the phone down. Then I thought of the photographs Leo took. Her performative smile. Her curated life. What did she value now? Not us. Not our history. I typed in the date of her first charity gala, as chairperson. The night she'd come home glowing, not from my compliment, but from the social validation. The phone unlocked. My hands were steady as I connected the small device Ada had given me to the charging port. A progress bar flickered on its tiny screen. 90 seconds. I listened to the shower run upstairs. The sound a mocking symbol of a normalcy that was already dead. The device blinked green. I disconnected it, placed it back in my pocket, returned the phone to the exact position in her bag. I walked to my study, closed the door, and vomited into the wastebasket. 2 days later, Ada came to my study. She placed a simple manila folder on my desk. Her expression was grave. It's all there. Call logs, encrypted message extracts, photo transmission logs, location data. The individual's name is Mark Dennett. He's a divorced private equity manager. They met at her gym 6 months ago. The Phoenix trip was with him. There are images, not just texts. I didn't open the folder. I didn't need to. The final piece of the puzzle had clicked into place. The thesis was proven. What do you want to do? Ada asked. I want to win. I said, my voice flat. She understood. Then you say nothing. You play the happy husband. You let her believe her performance is still working. In the meantime, we use this, she tapped the folder, to strategically secure your assets. We move finances. We document everything. We build an impregnable case. When she finally makes her move, or when you decide to end it, she will be walking into a legal ambush. The photograph started this. This will finish it. And so began the most surreal period of my life. I became the lead actor in a play written by my own betrayal. I smiled. I asked about her day. I listened to stories about Mark from spin class with a bland, interested expression. I made love to her, and it felt like an autopsy. I was dissecting the corpse of our marriage, even as I pretended it was still alive. She was relaxed, almost giddy. My apparent ignorance was her freedom. She grew bolder. The work dinners multiplied. The girls' weekends. She was living in a dream, believing she had the best of both worlds, the stability of our married life and the excitement of her secret one. All the while, guided by Ada and my lawyer, a man named Graves with the demeanor of Glacier, I quietly dismantled the world we'd built. Joint accounts were separated. Funds were moved into trusts in my name only. The deed to the cabin was restructured. My publisher was quietly informed of the impending personal changes. Graves began drafting divorce papers so airtight they hissed when you read them. I waited for the right moment. The perfect, devastating moment. It presented itself. Sophia's charity was having its annual winter gala, the social event of her season. She would be the center of attention, shining, validated. She'd asked me, of course, to be her date. I'd agreed with a warm smile. The night of the gala, she was radiant. She wore a black gown that cut a stunning figure. She wore the emerald earrings I'd given her. The final touch of irony. We posed for the official event photographer on the red carpet, her arm threaded through mine, her smile brilliant and false. I smiled too. Mine was just as false, but it was fueled by a secret knowledge that made my heart beat a slow, cold rhythm. The ballroom was a whirl of crystal, champagne, and moneyed conversation. Sophia flitted from group to group, a social butterfly in her element. I watched her, sipping my drink. I saw Mark Dennett across the room. He was handsome in a generic, slick way. He watched her too, with a possessiveness he had no right to feel. Their eyes met across the crowd. A secret, charged glance. A ghost of a smile. They thought they were so clever. They thought they were the only ones in on the joke. The keynote speeches began. Dull, self-congratulatory platitudes about community and philanthropy. Then, the chairperson, Sophia, was called to the podium to present the final award. She glided up the steps, a vision of poise and grace. The room applauded. She stood at the microphone, beaming. Thank you. Thank you all so much, she began, her voice clear and confident. Tonight is about celebration, about the incredible work we do together. It's also, for me, a night of profound personal gratitude. She looked out, her gaze sweeping the room. It lingered for a fraction of a second on Mark. Then it found me, standing near the back. Her eyes softened with a practiced, wifely affection. I couldn't do any of this without the unwavering support of my husband, Elias. A polite, knowing murmur through the crowd. People looked at me. I gave a modest, slightly embarrassed wave. He's my rock, she continued, laying it on thick. He inspires me every day. And recently, for our 10th anniversary, he gave me the most thoughtful gift. She paused for effect. I took a slow sip of champagne. He hired a wonderful photographer, Leo Martin, to capture a weekend away for us, to celebrate us. And those photographs, she put a hand to her heart. They are more than pictures. They are a beautiful, honest testament to our love and our life together. The room sighed with collective sentimentality. A few women dabbed their eyes. In fact, Sophia said, her voice taking on a conspiratorial, sharing tone, they move me so much. I asked the event team to prepare a little slideshow. A preview. Because the love I feel in this room tonight, the love we all share for this cause, it feels of a piece with the love in these images. So, if we could dim the lights. She looked so pleased with herself, so in control. She had taken my anniversary gift, the gift that had exposed her, and was now using it as a prop in her own performance. The ultimate appropriation. The lights dimmed. A large screen behind her glowed to life. The first image appeared. It was morning light. The beautiful, heartbreaking shot of our distance in the cabin kitchen. A soft ah went through the crowd. Sophia, her back to the screen, smiled. This is us. A quiet morning. Just being together. Click. Quiet moment. The porch swing. My clinging grip. Her stiff posture. So much history in a simple moment, she sighed. Click. Shared joy. My genuine laugh. Her performative smile checking the camera. The crowd was eating it up. They saw a beautiful couple. They heard a loving wife's narration. They were blind to the subtext. But I wasn't. And with each click, the ice in my veins spread. Click. Along the banks, the limp hand in mine. Click. Unobserved eye, my longing look, her distant laugh on the phone. Sophia's narration began to falter slightly. She couldn't see the images, only the crowd's reaction. But she could sense a shift, a slight cooling. A few puzzled frowns were starting to replace the sentimental smiles. And the beauty of the natural world around us, she said, her voice losing a little of its surety. Click. Unobserved too. The flirtatious phone posture, the hair twirl. The intimacy was undeniable now. The narrative on the screen was violently at odds with the narrative she was spinning from the podium. A low whisper rustled through the ballroom. People were leaning forward, squinting. The photographs were no longer just pretty pictures. They were a story, and it wasn't the one Sophia was telling. She turned, finally, to look at the screen just as the next click happened. Transmission. There she was, in our cabin, taking a curated selfie for someone else while I sat, blurred and ignored, in my own home. The title, in Leo's elegant font, was clear for all to see. The room fell into a stunned, glacial silence. You could hear the clink of a glass from the bar 100 feet away. Sophia's face, reflected in the faint light of the screen, went from confusion to dawning horror. She saw what everyone else saw. Not a testament to love, but a documented record of her emotional abandonment. A public exhibition of her secret life. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. That's when I moved. I walked, slowly and deliberately, through the party crowd. All eyes were on me. The whispers died. My footsteps on the parquet floor were the only sound. I walked past the frozen, horrified form of Mark Dennett. I walked up the 3 steps to the stage. I stood beside my wife at the podium. She stared at me, her eyes wide with terror and disbelief. I gently took the microphone from her numb fingers. I looked out at the sea of faces, our entire social world, and I smiled. It was a sad smile, a resigned smile. My wife is right, I said, my voice calm, amplified, filling the silent room. The camera doesn't lie. Leo Martin is a brilliant artist. He didn't just capture images that weekend. He captured a truth. Her truth. I turned to Sophia. She was trembling. You thanked me for this gift, Sophia. And you were right too. It was the most valuable gift I've ever received. It gave me my eyesight back. I looked back at the crowd. The slideshow is over. The party, for my wife and me, is over. The marriage is over. I placed the microphone carefully on the podium. I didn't look at her again. I walked off the stage, through the utterly silent, gaping crowd, and out of the ballroom. I didn't hear the eruption of sound that must have followed. I was already in the cold night air, breathing it in like a man who had been drowning. The aftermath was swift and brutal. The social annihilation was complete and self-inflicted. She had chosen the stage. I had merely handed her the script of her own betrayal. The lawyer, Graves, served her with the divorce papers the next morning at her sister's apartment, where she'd fled. With the evidence Ada had gathered, the phone logs, the messages, the proof of the Phoenix trip, and the publicly witnessed debacle at the gala, she had no leverage. None. She tried to call. She left sobbing, rage-filled messages. She accused me of cruelty, of manipulation. You set me up, she screamed into my voicemail. She wasn't wrong, but she had set the game in motion. I had just chosen to stop playing by her rules. The settlement was quiet. She got a fraction of what she might have gotten had I been the clueless husband she'd taken me for. The house, the cabin, the bulk of the assets remained mine. The emerald earrings, I noted in the agreement, were hers to keep. I sit in the house now. It's too big. I'll sell it. The photographs from Leo, the ones that started it all, are in a box. I can't look at them, but I can't destroy them either. They're the most expensive and painful piece of art I will ever own. Sometimes, in the deep quiet of the night, I think not of the betrayal, or the lies, or the public humiliation. I think of the man in the photographs, the one looking at his wife with such naked, hopeful love. I mourn for him. The camera showed him everything, too. It showed him the fool he was, the dream he was clinging to, the love that was already just a ghost. It showed him the truth. And in the end, as brutal as it was, that truth was the only gift that mattered. It was the gift that set me free.